swath, I mean, you know, it's almost half of Los Angeles. We basically have to yield completely to the airspace and to the law enforcement aircraft that are overhead. Copy, copy. Yeah, Freak 5. Yeah, hi, I got you. Okay, copy that. Yeah. All of our viewers can have some. Okay, hi guys. I hope all of our viewers can have some patience here as we've now made a judgment call to transition through the LAX airspace. We have to go along the 110 at a certain altitude, and then we can reacquire the pursuit, hopefully on the other side, which will be around the USC area. Last we saw, they were northbound on Vermont and went. They were right at about Florence, so a little more than halfway towards downtown Los Angeles. This pursuit that came out of the Southgate area. It's been CHP that has been in pursuit this entire time. I heard that they were alerting LAPD South LA Division, but it doesn't sound like LAPD is going to get involved in this. It is essentially just CHP at this point. Last we saw northbound on Vermont passing Florence. It's unclear what the want is, but we know that there was at least 3 people in the car because earlier when they were down at Central right around Manchester as we were coming around, there was someone actually got out of the back of the vehicle and ran, and then we could tell that there was still a passenger as well. So at least 2 people still in this red Honda SUV, Honda CRV, I believe it is. We will hopefully be reacquiring it here shortly. So we're looking at Figueroa. It's going to be over on Vermont was the last street that we had it on. And you know what? Look here. I think I could see the CHP right there. So we're almost caught back up. It's still northbound on Vermont. Actually, might be Hoover now at this point, but so just Yeah, yeah, and again, and to make this transition, we had to go down underneath the jets that were landing at LAX, so that's why we weren't able to stay high and kind of keep a bird's eye view at this point. But we'll hopefully be reacquiring the vehicle shortly as we head through the heart of South LA and going northbound. We were on Imperial Highway for a while. It's been on surface streets pretty much exclusively. We were southbound on Central, westbound on Imperial, and then once they got to Vermont, they made that northbound turn, and they've been sticking with northbound Vermont. But I saw that CHP unit right that was back here, and hopefully we're going to be northbound Vermont. Yeah, I did hear that. Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Pat. Yeah, here we go. So we got the vehicle back, and we are still northbound on Vermont. That unit that I was showing you over on Hoover, they're kind of paralleling the chase right now, just in case this person decides to make an eastbound turn. So you see the coordination with law enforcement, and no, look at, maybe we're going to see another pit maneuver attempt here. This was the unit that tried it before, but when they tried it before, the suspect sped up, and it just got too dangerous, approaching really heavy traffic. But you see him kind of starting to sneak up behind him, but we're coming to some heavy traffic again. And as we come up now to Vermont and Vernon Avenue, yeah, and look at it, over onto the wrong side as well. Whoa, that was a real close call. This is what we've been seeing every time he comes up to a red light. He'll get on the wrong side of the road or over to the right shoulder, almost up on the sidewalk, and no fear at all to go through red lights in South LA now at rush hour. We're past 5 o'clock on a Thursday. You can see the heavy traffic headed southbound. Not a lot of northbound traffic, so let's see if CHP can pick their spot here and bring this to an end if they're going to initiate another pit maneuver. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it makes me really wonder what the what is on this one, Pat, because you do see the aggression and the desire to really bring this to an end by CHP. Although, I've said it before, and I'll still maintain that in general, when we're talking about the major law enforcement agencies in LA County, CHP, sheriff's deputies, and LAPD, CHP is definitely the agency that tends to be the most aggressive with these chases, with pit maneuvers as soon as they get off of the freeway, or just sticking with pursuits. We've seen pursuits with motorcycles over 120 miles an hour, and the CHP cruisers keep up with them, whereas other agencies might decide to let it go depending on the want. But whatever the want is, CHP definitely determined on this one as we're eastbound on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. We haven't been able to get that close of a look, unfortunately, just because we've pretty much been in this airspace the whole time, and now they're heading back southbound now on Figueroa, so kind of going away from us again. We certainly hope for our viewers, if this is going to continue, that they'll head towards the east at this point. But so back into that LAX airspace at 42nd again, onto the wrong side. I do know that there's a passenger, that much for sure, that there's two people, and there had been at least three, so there could still even be someone else in the back seat. But I believe that was at Central and Manchester, or near there, maybe even Central and Century, where we saw someone get out of the back of the vehicle and run. Actually, it was when we were behind a tree, but we heard CHP talking about it, and I'm sure one of the units in the back stopped and apprehended that person. That's one of the reasons why you have multiple units engaged in this as well, is if you have something like that happen, you have another unit that can stop and, you know, go apprehend somebody else that was in the vehicle and, you know, try to get some information out of them. And you can see at least 4 in tow here, as well as I believe it is CHP's helicopter that is overhead as well. They had to come all the way from Fullerton. It was initially LA County Sheriff's Deputy Sheriff that was lending a hand on this one, but once CHP's chopper got here, it's now basically all CHP on this pursuit. No, yeah, you know, 20, 30, maybe 40 miles an hour. It wasn't until they tried to do that pit maneuver that we saw the driver speed up to about 50, 55 miles an hour, and then that's when CHP backed off. It's like he could see it, you know, coming in the rearview mirror, and so he sped up, and then that was when, you know, CHP thought better of it. Now, again, it kind of looked like, as we saw the unit getting over there to the right, like he was maybe going to try it again, but this is just such a touchy situation as to when to do that, especially, you know, on major streets. We've been on major streets the entire time. Yeah, lots of parked cars, lots of pedestrians out there. A lot of times these vehicles, when they do the pit maneuver, they can spin around onto the sidewalk. So, you know, that is a big consideration for CHP if they're going to consider doing that. And I think we are now going to be transitioning back south on the 110. Now we're on Figueroa, so we should be, which is, you know, just to the west of the 110, and we're going to be over the 110 ourselves. So hopefully we'll be able to keep the shot as we now transition back towards the south onto the other side of LAX's airspace. That's bad. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because we can't go any higher right now as we're over the 110, and we'll be lucky to hold this shot. We'll just have to see what they do next, but it should be coming out right here with the CHP at Gage near Hoover, and southbound Hoover. Yeah, here we go. So, yeah, and again, sticking to all major streets here, you know. Yeah, so we actually have to move north so that we can look south right now, because we're kind of in this weird point where, you know, we're kind of in the middle of what they call the LAX Bravo airspace. If he was, you know, more towards the north or more towards the south, we could make a better determination about which side, but we can't stop in the middle of that space. We have to stay on either end of it. So now we're still looking from the north end as they go southbound on Hoover away from Gage. And yeah, you know, lower speeds, that's really the only you know, kind of silver lining with this, is that we haven't seen the insane speeds that sometimes we see of, you know, 50, 60 miles an hour, but certainly still some dangerous driving there. We're probably going to see it again here, where they get on the wrong side of the road to get through a red light and just hope that this traffic stops. I mean, look at that cross traffic right there. That guy was going 40 miles an hour. Yeah, you're crossing Florence right now, and eastbound onto Florence here. Yeah, eastbound on Florence. Well, you know, what I'm thinking is that because we were hearing that this pursuit was on Firestone for quite some time, and Firestone is actually technically a California highway. So it's something like that is like a multi-jurisdictional thing. It's signed as California Highway 42. So it sounds kind of strange, but you know, surface streets can be California highways, and CHP does have have jurisdiction like that. There's actually quite a few streets around. I believe Whittier Boulevard is another one that is like that. So you may see, you know, CHP being the lead agency in an area like that without even being on a freeway. But when I've talked to CHP officers in the past, you know, my understanding is that they have jurisdiction over the entire state of California, but they don't tend to initiate a pursuit or do very many traffic stops on normal surface streets. So either way you slice it, you know, if that is the reason or not, it is certainly odd that we've been on surface streets, I believe exclusively. Maybe this was very briefly on the 710 freeway, but I would say, I can definitely say more than, you know, 99% of this has been on major surface streets through Southgate and Bell Gardens and South Los Angeles. The 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I count actually maybe even 7 because that vehicle in the far back there. But yeah, I mean, you saw right. Yeah, so that's interesting if that's the case as well. It makes you think that maybe this is a serious want. There are times, you know, when we see some really serious suspects as far as what they're wanted for, is sometimes you see an undercover unit in the back of that one. But zigging and zagging all over the street, and you know, if people are moving over as they should be to get out of the way, but then they end up, you know, kind of giving this guy some space. So it's kind of a weird situation here, but still southbound on Figueroa, and we'll probably be making that transition along the 110 again soon once they get down. My pilot Austin said once they get down around Century. I believe they're getting down to Manchester right now. Wrong side of the road again, getting around. It looks like maybe a big construction truck or a trash truck. Can't tell from this far away, but we're looking at about 3 or 4 miles to the south on this one. Well, now he's making an eastbound turn. Looks like eastbound on Manchester away from Figueroa. Yep. Yeah, a little. Yeah, I was waiting to see if they were going to get on the 110, but coming back towards us now, northbound on. They just said northbound Grand. I know our map tracker, Sky Tracker, is saying Olive, but I heard them just call out Grand. Now making another turn, so we're starting to kind of zig and zag, and this is the first time we've been off of some major surface streets, cutting across now back northbound. And so now we're northbound on Broadway, coming back towards downtown LA, and it's just I'm starting to wonder if this is his strategy though, to stay in the LAX space to make it more difficult for the helicopters overhead to keep eyes on him. You know, you still have CHP's helicopter, but you know, difficult for us to keep eyes on it. And there are times when we, you know, lend help to law enforcement if they, you know, lose sight of them, and we still have them. You know, we can help guide them in. It's happened several times before. But northbound on Broadway through South LA. Yeah, it might have been a bus stop. Yeah, that might have been a bus stop right there that he went over, you know, pretty close to the sidewalk there. But yeah, and using his turn signal as well. Always really strange to me when you see him using their turn signal. But you know, at the same time, they're going onto the wrong side of the street to get around this one. No, no, certainly not. There, look at yeah, turn signal again. So weird. As we're eastbound on Florence now, eastbound Florence away from Broadway. Yeah, and just as he was coming towards us, headed eastbound out of the LAX airspace, just made a southbound turn, so southbound on Central. And yeah, Jeff and Pat, I really wish I knew what started this whole debacle with this. I've even heard the dispatcher asking repeatedly to the lead officer, what is the want? What is the initial want on this? And they just continue to call out, surface streets and not acknowledging that if they might just be, a little too focused on this. Of course, it is, incredibly tense for these officers, and we did see the unit that the unit that initially got in this pursuit. They dropped out or maybe fell back a little bit to allow this cruiser to come in, and so the person who's doing the legwork here in front may not even know themselves what the want is on this. I believe that they're just there probably looking for a pit maneuver opportunity, and we did see that one chance earlier where they had that really small window to try to do it, but then the officer thought better of it. Of course, that was on Imperial Highway and got into some pretty heavy traffic, but still sticking with major streets. Haven't seen, there was just very briefly there where he kind of cut around the 110 and came up to Florence, where we were, on smaller surface streets. He's been sticking to the majors. He or she has been sticking to the major streets the entire time. Just turn his lights off. Yeah, I believe so. That's yes, yeah. There's Firestone and Compton, and we're kind of shooting into the sun here as well. So hopefully this person will get on the other side of us here, and then we can offer you a more clear picture. But you notice that officer shut their lights off there for a second, which is kind of weird. But now they're back on. Not sure what that was about. I was also wanted to throw out there, my understanding is that CHP officers do not need to ask a watch commander to initiate a pit maneuver. When we're talking about sheriff's deputies or LAPD, we'll hear them ask their supervisor for permission to do a pit, and then the supervisor will give permission or not give permission. But my understanding with CHP is that is not the case, that they can basically do what they want on this. But now look at getting around all of this super heavy traffic, still on Firestone. You see some of that very frustrating Thursday traffic. And you mentioned, the getaway. Oh, there's someone on a little tricycle or something, it looks like, that had to come to a sudden stop. They looked like they were about to fly out into the intersection. So we see the danger that, this puts pedestrians in as well. Let me just make a little change here with the camera. Oh, excuse me. And it's constant adjustments as we're facing east or facing west, if we're facing, the sun or whatnot. But lower speeds, they've only been 30, 40 miles an hour for the most part. Now CHP kind of hanging back for the moment, maybe, regrouping or what have you, maybe trying to catch their breath on this. Haven't heard any talk of spike strips or anything. It hasn't been sticking to the same area that they could have an opportunity for that. I think we've covered a lot of distance on a lot of different streets, and we've seen officers paralleling on some other streets. Maybe they're ready with spike strips, but haven't heard any talk of using that technique to bring this to an end. Yeah, headed back to near where this one all began. So we'll see if this is just the suspect going on a joyride for a while, and then if maybe they've been calling some friends or something like that, or if they're looking for a place to pull over. It's just always so random with these pursuits. Sometimes we see insane driving, and then a suspect just give up out of nowhere after going on for a half hour. Other times we've seen pursuits go on for 6.5 hours at extremely low speeds. This one, so far is kind of in the middle, not really crazy high speeds. You can see there's someone looks like they're texting or web surfing on in the passenger seat. We can see that. It would certainly like to be would certainly like to be a fly on the wall there and know what that was about. But we know at least one person didn't want anything to do with this. Someone who was in the rear passenger compartment. They got out and ran, and actually didn't hear if CHP was able to apprehend that person. But most of the time they are. Whenever you get somebody out, one of the other units that's hanging back there will stop and they'll apprehend that person and give them a stern talking to, and ask them what's going on here. Yep, not going to be able to get out of this one. Yep, somebody, someone shouting at him there. We've noticed before, Pat and Jeff, when we tend to hang around the same area, and when these have been televised for so long, that you end up it kind of turns into a spectacle for people that live in the area, and they want to come out and witness this. It wasn't clear if that was what we were looking at there, but southbound on Alameda, an incredibly congested street. You could just see the casual nature of both the driver and the passenger. It almost looked like they're just disconnected from the reality of what's going on, that they're being pursued by the authorities. There's no agitated behavior. You've got, it looks like a male driver. He's driving with one hand on the wheel. The passenger, I believe, it looked like that was a woman who was just glued to her phone, and they're not making any. I mean, they're still driving, getting onto the wrong side of the road and whatnot. But when you look at their mannerisms, it's like they're just almost pretending this isn't happening. Yeah, I have noticed that as well, that they're backing off. It makes me wonder if they're in communication with this person. We have seen that before where, the suspect will actually call CHP, call LAPD, and kind of try to negotiate with them. They'll try to calm the suspect down, and maybe they'll back off for that reason and, look for this person to calm down and accept the inevitable that, this is going to end, for them in handcuffs. Not seeing the crazy desperation that we've seen, like just the other night that we saw that suspect who actually did get away, where they were driving 120 miles an hour, on the freeway and on the wrong side of the street. We're seeing the driver on the wrong side of the street, but very, pedestrian speeds, just really around the speed limit, 30, 40 miles an hour. But every time we get into some traffic, here we go again onto the wrong side. And, the more chances he takes, I mean, look, here comes somebody right here. Eventually, if you got someone who's trying to make it through a light, maybe they're making a turn at a yellow and they, come through faster than they should, they're not going to see this guy, and it's going to end in a collision, the more chances that this person takes. But and we're back on Imperial Highway. This is pretty close to where where we saw the pit maneuver. We're traveling west towards the 110, and this is where CHP tried it earlier, but no inkling that they're going to try that again. Yeah, maybe 45 miles an hour. And maybe he doesn't want to go behind this big truck because he can't see. No, yeah, he's going to go anyway. Yep, once again, and the peak of LA traffic time on a street, Imperial Highway, that a lot of people use to get to the airport or use as an alternate to the 105. And you can see though he's going against traffic. Traffic from LAX towards Norwalk, in the afternoon is all traveling eastbound. So even though you see a lot of, traffic on kind of heavy on eastbound Imperial, you see, for the most part, pretty easy conditions as he travels westbound on Imperial Highway. Oh, kind of close there. No. Oh no! Oh, yep. That was going to happen eventually. Yep, that was going to happen eventually. I was just talking about that, and there he was, goes on the wrong side of the road and then tries to cut all the way right as that light turned green, and it looked like he clipped that car. Unfortunately, our shot's so wide again because of the LAX space. I couldn't see if they actually collided with that vehicle, but that was awfully close and had to make that innocent person's heart race for sure. So be curious if CHP is going to stick with that person, but yeah, all of a sudden you're just thinking about your dinner plans. You're headed home from work and your light turns green, and here comes this guy flying from the wrong side of the road to cut all the way back around. And was lucky that that didn't end up worse. Yeah, I mean, it looks like still seven units, in pursuit on this. Now, I did just hear them mention something. We hopefully are going to see a strategy here fairly soon. That's all I'll say right now, in case the suspect, that passenger, is got the CBS LA app open. But yeah, there's you got pedestrians and motorcycles out here northbound on Broadway, but they might be trying something here. But you just think if you're the passenger there after that maneuver, you just be like, all right, enough of this. Pull over. Enough is enough. This is ridiculous. I mean, it's not just endangering his life anymore, but the person that has no control in the passenger seat is sitting there, and she's in jeopardy as well. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Well. Yeah, and unfortunately we'll have to. Yeah, and unfortunately we'll have to keep this wide shot for a bit longer as if it continues northbound here on Broadway and gets up to, we're trying to time it here that we can kind of get to the other side of the 110 and bring you a good shot as we go, and then be caught up. So we kind of have to decide when to do that. Probably once they get up to about Slauson or Gage, we'll initiate the flight along the 110 to get back over this. So just crisscrossing the LAX airspace. It's been in this ever since they came out of Southgate. It was like the suspect came right this way and has been content to stay in this area the entire time. So not sure what that means. It looks like maybe a bunch of pedestrians though out on the sidewalk right there. There you see someone just trying to take their green light, and yep. Yeah, maybe. Well, yeah, they might have been blasting their stereos or something and couldn't hear the lights and sirens or what. Here come more pedestrians we can see. Yeah, everybody, like I said, the longer this goes on, the more of a spectacle it becomes for people in these neighborhoods, and everyone wants to, whip out their phones and post it to Twitter or Instagram or what have you. And so we are increasingly seeing that. Northbound on Broadway through the heart of South LA, continues northbound. We'll make our northbound turn pretty soon here as well to get caught back up. Oh, probably just 25 miles an hour. I don't think we've seen speeds higher than 50, and that was only when the CHP officer that looked like was going to initiate that pit maneuver did that, and as he sped up to, contact the rear bumper and spin him around, that's when we saw, it was the only time we saw that the suspect speed up. So, unfortunately, he was, a little privy to that maneuver, but, who knows how that would have turned out anyway. It's possible that he would have spun out of control and slammed into oncoming traffic, or so, in that sense, it may have been better. Yeah, and that maybe it was better that pit maneuver, was not initiated.